Stop the wind that blows. Yeah.
But just in different bits. So the majority of, I mean, the whole island's got everything everywhere to see. A couple of rules that you can't take anything from the island. You can look at it, have a good look, and then leave it here. Can't go. And when we do go and look at all the buildings up in the top area, don't touch any of the walls or anything. You can see they're very crumbly. We do have an opportunity to touch, and it's called beach rock, further over here. So it's so crumbly you can actually just pick it up and it crumbles in your hand. That's what half the buildings were made of. A lot of the other buildings were made of the wood, and it's gone to Boggo Road Jail. They've taken them over there. So they've got some authentic pieces from there. A little bit of a history, I guess, is that in 1866, or actually before 1866, the Aboriginals used to inhabit the island. And the way they know that is that there's an actual midden where they used to throw their remains. So whatever they used to eat, they're actually in a big pile. They were very neat, actually. They kept it in one place. But they tested the midden. They put a hot tube down, and they worked out, over 2,500 years ago is when the Aboriginals were here. So it's been inhabited for a long time.
Close to 6.
Sorry?
Close to 6,000 years ago.
Yeah. But they said, they found the remains or the food from a couple of thousand years ago. Yeah. No, you go. In 1866, it became a quarantine island, and that was from the ships from England. And we found records only a couple of years ago. The St Helena Rangers have looked into it, and they found a lot of records from whoever was actually brought here, what illness they had, what age they were, where they'd come from. So that was very interesting to find out. But that didn't last very long. They repurposed it to the prison island, and it became what they call the hellhole of the south. So it was a very harsh prison, and it was gone through a phase of being silent prison. They couldn't talk while they were here or working, and if they did, they would get punished. We see a lot of punishments like up in the museum where they go through what they were. Some of them were whipping with a cat o' nine tails, so the knots actually make the skin tear, and that's why they used it to actually do it properly. Some of them were solitary confinement, which we actually get to see the size of the actual cell. Very small, and it was in pitch black. So sometimes there for a couple of weeks, sometimes even I think 3 weeks or a month.
Yeah, maximum 28 days, when it was 7.
Yeah, so it was quite harsh. They had a bucket for water and a bucket for waste. Yeah, leftovers, not waste.
It's too up in the dark.
Yeah. And a very small area to walk around about 15 minutes a day for exercise, and that was it. And all in pitch black.
Have to time the stuff back into cells, a metre by a metre by a metre.
Yeah, really.
You couldn't stand up, you couldn't lie down properly.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah. But they did a lot of the work here themselves. They built a lot of things themselves. The prisoners were actually made to build it, and they also became qualified in, blacksmiths or
Various
farmers, various trades. Yeah, so many.
Tinsmithing, blacksmithing.
Yep.
It was all done here.
Yeah.
They had to be self-sufficient.
Yeah. So we get to see a fair bit of what they worked on, what they did. There's a model room that we'll take you to as well to show you the original set out of the prison. A lot of the buildings aren't here anymore, which is very disappointing. But we're lucky enough that we get to see some of them. Yeah. So we'll split up into 2 groups now, and Luke will take one and I'll take the other. And we'll probably hang around close to each other, but yeah, just so that you can hear everything that we're saying. It's easier with a smaller group.
Go down and splash in the ocean.
Come on over, guys. All right. I'll make a start. My name's Luke. I'm a registered tour guide with Brisbane Cruises in St Helena Island. Just before we head off, we're talking about the midden just in the shelter. That's that first little hummock just there. It's covered by grass. And just to the right of it, you've got a whole heap of reeds and a bit of a wet sort of area. That's the old beach rock quarry. So beach rock's what all the prison buildings were made out of. The prisoners also made their own bricks out of clay here on the island. We've got some examples of that. They're marked with like a double arrowhead or a W. But the majority of the prison buildings are built out of beach rock. And there should be a lump of it left up by the gate. You can have a bit of a feel of that, but obviously don't touch anything up in the prison. So the beach rock was actually formed underwater approximately 8,000 years ago when the sea levels were much higher. It's a sedimentary rock, and it's just the lime from all the decomposing shellfish and shells and coral that's sort of holding everything together. All right. So 1867, the island opened as it was originally intended to be a quarantine station. The ships used to quarantine off the island before heading into the port of Brisbane. They then found that they actually needed more prison facilities, so they converted what was then being built by prisoners as a quarantine station into the prison, and that ran from 1867 through to 1932. All right, we'll head off up this way. If you need the toilet. So this is the beach rock. Yeah, well done. No. I'm not going to say it twice.
Beach rock.
This is beach rock. So you can come in and have a bit of a feel. It is all just held together, bits of rock and some shells and...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Sort of rub your hand up against it. Comes away. So yeah, we used to have up to 10,000 school kids come every year, plus extra visitors. Obviously, if anyone touches bits and pieces, you're not going to have anything left.
No.
Alright, we'll just wait for everybody to get here.
Yep.
Get through today. So if we could all just stay together, if we could. So we're about to enter the stockade. Those of you that weren't here a little bit earlier, just over there on your left-hand side, there's a lump of beach rock. That's the only piece you can go and touch, so take the opportunity now. We're about to enter what's known as the stockade. So that's just all the building complex up here in front of us, where the main activity of the prison took place. We've got a long building there called the Stores House. We're going to head over that way. The Stores building down at the gates. That's that building there with the, it looks like it has a roof on it. That roof is actually a freestanding structure held up on posts within the building. It's not actually touching the old Stores building. It's literally just there to protect it. So we have something called the Borough Charter here in Moreton Bay. You can reinforce or protect buildings using bracing and that sort of thing to help hold them up. But in most cases you're going to try and keep them sort of freestanding or within reason to sort of preserve the buildings and make them visible in such a way that they're not part of the like, we can't keep it within, like you can't make it look like a ruin. It's got to be obviously new tin or, you know, bright grey paint on all the bracing, that sort of thing. So you can't, it's not confused with the original structure. So just behind the Stores building we've got the blacksmith shop, which is that building over there without the roof. That's one of the first stops on as your life here as a prisoner. So you'd come up the jetty, up the causeway, and then up the tramway, which used to run to the front of the Stores building over here with that big door. So your first stop as a prisoner, you hope, is over here at the blacksmith shop, because you'd row over in irons. So you'd want to have your irons removed. There were some prisoners, their crimes were so heinous, so bad, that the judge then decided not only are you going to go to St Helena for 25 years, you're also going to spend the first 2 years in your irons.
Oh, jeez.
So prisoners were only allowed to wash once a week. So they could bathe in your cell in your water bucket. But on a Sunday before church, they'd be taken down to the water, and you could bathe down in the salt water there. But can you imagine irons wearing away your skin for 2 years and then going, I'm going to have to stick my whole arm in that?
Jeez.
Anyway, we're going to head up. So this part of the prison up here is what's known as the yards area. This is where the majority of the prisoners, all your hardened criminals, they all worked up in the stockade. All of your, your lesser crimes, those prisoners were allowed to go out and work in the fields. So we're stopping here specifically because under F yard, or under F yard, so you've got single man cells in EF, EFG. Oh no, hang on. You can see why I was a cook for 20 years. Can't spell. So E and F yards were your tailor shop, your tinsmith shop, your bootmaker, and your saddlery. That's where the buildings where prisoners would work and learn a trade in the later part of the prison. But underneath F yard was one of our first punishments. There are 4 punishments on the island here. The first one being solitary confinement cells. So you can just sort of see this bit of a depression in the ground here. Underneath, about another metre down, was 6 solitary confinement cells. So it could hold 6 prisoners here in those 1 metre by 1 metre by 1 metre cells. Minimum of 7 days and a maximum of 28 days, and you didn't look too good when you came out after 28. In 1932, the island was used as farming, as I said earlier, so the farmers obviously filled it in because they had animals and kids and stuff running around and didn't want them falling in. Over here in E-Yard, you can't see it at the moment, but there is an underground water tank. Water was pumped up to the top part of the island in various places, and they're stored in either underground or big iron tanks. We've got one over here. We've got a prisoner, John Hayes. His name is John Hayes, but when you come over on the island, you're issued with a prison number, and that's the only name you have for the duration of your time here on the island. So John Hayes was prisoner number 1545. He decided one day that he was going to escape, and in all his wisdom, he climbed inside the water tank and pulled the lid shut on top of himself. He's later drowned in that water tank because then he couldn't get out. So they've pulled his body out and he's buried in the cemetery at the bottom of the island. They've then decided that water's fine for prisoners to drink.
Oh no! Oh no.
This is our stores building. The brickwork is actually pretty well preserved because the prisoners produced their own lime here on the island as well as the bricks, and that was smeared over the bricks to protect it from wind and rain and all that sort of stuff. Tramway ran all the way to the jetty, sort of finished here with like a turntable sort of arrangement, and then all of the goods that the prisoners made here on the island could be taken back to boats and then sold on the mainland for profit. Pretty good having free labour in it.
They have sort of little trolleys, did they?
Yeah, little tram carts. Yeah. Spoke about first punishment being solitary confinement over the other side over there. This is now what's known as the timber yard. This was where timber cut on the island was laid out to dry, so they could then use it in the roofs and that sort of thing. But it was also the site of our second punishment, called shot drill. So at dinner time, when all of the other prisoners are in their yards on the other side of that top wall, prisoners on shot drill would be lined up along this wall. They would then have a 22-pound cannonball, 22-pound, about 11 kilos, placed at their feet. There'd be an armed guard walking that catwalk up there, taking shot drill, and they would be instructed to pick up the cannonball, hold it out in front of them, and then have to walk the length of the timber yard, turn around, put the cannonball back down, pick it up again and walk back. And they would repeat that process for 1 hour and 15 minutes. And then they get to go to bed without any dinner. Prisoners used to make their own lime. We'll see the kiln down the bottom of the island. This is where the lime was all stored. And there was a tramway that ran up to about here. And then from this part of the island, up and around the corner, was called Waters Row. It was a beach rock roadway up to the Waters Barracks and quarters. No dead bodies kept there. It was literally just for the night shift, warders on night shift. Somewhere dark and quiet for them to have a sleep through the day. Head round this way. Yeah. Put the structure in front of us with the railway track to the roof. It wasn't to keep anything inside. That was all filled with sand. They actually kept iron water storage tanks on top. Come over and have a look in, guys. This is our water storage tank. Similar to the one that John Hayes, 1555, grounding over in Enyard. So water was pumped from one of the wells down at the bottom of the island using the boiler and pumped up here to water storage tanks. Stay there for me, guys. out of 9 tails. So I'm going to get my man up the back here.
It looks dodgy.
You're half right. So you're going to be my my demonstration dummy. All good. So you could receive a maximum of 50 lashes, 25 from the shoulder to the waist, and then 25 from the waist to above the knee. So then, once you've got your lashes and all of these knots have cut open your back, the doctor would then produce a patch of salt and then proceed to rub raw salt into all the open cuts. There not being any antibiotics, that was the best they could do. But it was also extra form of punishment. Sounds good. Where's the missus? Here you go. That'll keep you in line. Take away your indulgences. Tea, tobacco, sugar, salt, and then put you on lesser rations. They'd restrict your food. And you having to go out and work every day, you really wanted to eat as much as you possibly could. When you're in the solitary confinement cells, you're only on bread and water because you're not doing any work. Food being the topic at the moment, this concrete pad in front of us was the cookhouse. Every morning they'd make prisoners breakfast, which was called hominy. It's like a corn porridge. I was a chef for 20 years. I tried making it from the recipes we've got on records. It's pretty bloody awful. We've got the butcher's house in the corner, as I said. And then we're going to swap over with these guys. We're going to take a closer look at the bakery. The next two buildings along here, we've got the smoking house and the brining house. So you smoke and brine things to preserve them when you've got kinds of plenty, or when you don't have as much. Is quite good fishing here off around St Helena Island. There used to be anyway. It is a three nautical mile marine national park, so you can't fish anymore. If you can, don't get caught. Otherwise you'll end up prisoner. But yes, they did catch somewhere, or it's in the museum. It was one of the warden's children actually caught, I believe, 160 whiting one day. So tons of plenty to preserve what you've got. Go up and take a closer look at the ovens.
What sort of things would this paint for? Like they had all these paint, what did they do or not do to make sure they saw the never in the first place? They probably were.
Used to work. Could be anything. Water's having a bad day. Take a good look down the catwalk where the water taking shot drill would have walked. And then you've got access into the back of the yard to the cookhouse and the bakery. So they're called yards because they literally were a massive open yard where all of the prisoners would eat, socialise, and that was the only time they could actually do any talking, smoke a bit of tobacco, that sort of thing. And then they would sleep in cells at the end of the yards, or wards. Anyway, we're going to head up to what used to be the Chief Warder's cottage.